Hi, this is Arpan Mukherjee from Santiniketan, West Bengal. I'm a practicing artist and art educator. My practice is based on photography, particularly alternative photography, which explores materials, which explores history of photography, which explores history of chemistry, particularly related to photographic chemistry. As you know, Calcutta was a British capital, hence the photographic practices arrived quite early. Almost 1840s, the studios been developed in Calcutta. Studios were mushrooming in Calcutta at certain point of time. And because of that, it spread beyond Calcutta. There were small townships in Bengal where we can see the studio photography being developed. We can see amateur Bengalis, we can see people who doesn't have any interest into other field but they are interested into photography. I'm particularly as an artist interested into it. And so we started looking for it. My primary inspiration of my work is based on these research materials. Me and my wife, we both jointly develop a studio called Studio Goppo. And one of the major motto of the Studio Goppo is to record the knowledge bank, capture that knowledge bank which is vanishing fast. My work is basically based on all these historical facts, historical documentations. I found digital photography or the outcome, the digital print of photography was very plasticky. It doesn't have that organic quality. It doesn't have that manuality into it. Hence it doesn't have life. I was not interested only on image, but I was interested in the process of making that image. Time. It involves materials. It involves history. This contextual position of material, this contextual position of history of photography was very important for my work. There are different projects which I have developed, which are particularly based on these ideas to record a time. And this recording of time was very important to read our history again. My works are dependent on the research, the kind of research done on the photographic practice, the historical photographic practice, material availability. For an example, collodion was a primary material for wet plate collodion practice since the Britishers were here. It's been wet plate collodion, a process which been invented in 1851, and it's been practiced widely till 70s, 80s, 1880s, and then later on it's been replaced by silver gelatin emulsion photographic practices. In India, there was a time when wet plate collodion photographic practice was very popular. Ambrotypes, which are done by wet plate collodion process on glass plate like this, which necessarily produce a single image on camera positive using a large format field camera. The main ingredient which is of wet plate collodion is collodion. Collodion is nothing but dissolved gun cotton, and gun cotton was an explosive. So interestingly, there were very few ships which has that license to carry from England to India. Most of them refused to carry it. So there was always a scarcity of collodion in India. So eventually the photographers in Calcutta, the photographers in India, those who were working with collodion, they started making their own gun cottons. That was an interesting point from where I also personally started doing the same thing, because even today the collodion is a scarcity. The kind of collodion we get, it's not meant for photography, it's not good enough, it's not a proper collodion. So once you produce your own material and then you produce your own images, that gives a kind of another level of satisfaction as a photographer, as an artist, and the way you are doing it. At certain point of time, I also started making my own camera, because The primary reason of making camera or primary reason of hunting for all these methods, there are 100 processes. Hunting for these processes, hunting for this material, hunting for this appropriate material is to justify, is to contextualize the project I'm working with. The project I'm working with is more important and it has certain demands. That demands could be fulfilled through all these historical methodologies where a manuality is involved, a manual labor is involved, where these two hands are involved, where this plastic quality of digital photo making is not there. And I'm not concerned about the final product, but I'm concerned about the time I'm spending to make that product. I'm concerned about the time, I'm concerned about the process, I'm concerned about the collection of material, I'm concerned about the materiality of photography rather than the final product. Final product is a memory of that process. So this search for material, this search for history, the search for appropriation of history and material and image, the image making process leads to a different projects. As an artist, I personally produce my own body of work which are related to this, but simultaneously also I found that this is important to view the photographic practices from a different perspective. And I thought that it is important to develop a studio, to develop a space where people can come, they can learn, they can work together, and then we jointly produce a body of knowledge. So from there, me and my wife, we develop a studio. It's called Studio Goppo. And Studio Goppo is a studio where we facilitate people, artists to learn, to explore, to research on 19th century photographic practices. As a process-based artist, I feel that only sharing my end product is not going to justify my entire labor, my entire research project. So I was looking for another way of viewership. I was addressing the viewership of photography, the viewership of this kind of photography. And definitely that was a challenge. How do you show your works? How do you share your works? How do you share your projects? This was very important. I asked myself the questions that whether an artist could select his viewer or not. Whether I could do it or not. How do I ask my viewers to view it? How do I look at my viewers? How do I look at the viewership? And the answer was very simple. The answer was this, in this particular case, that I asked my viewer to come to work with me, to produce the work in the studio. How do you address your work? The second is this, that how do you address your viewer? And where do you share? How do you share your works? So these were the primary questions I was bothered about, and I was trying to solve these, the answers of all these questions. The main issue is that how you are addressing your need, how you are addressing your context, how you are addressing your image. A square or rectangular image, a simple plain digital inkjet print cannot serve the purpose of today's world, cannot answer the questions of today's crisis. Hence it is important to impart, to incorporate methodology, material, process, history into it. The photographic practice of 19th century gives us that opportunity to combine material, historicity, process, labor, these two hands into it. Develop a completely different approach towards photography making, towards rather photo making.